Hello, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. We are thrilled to welcome you today to our first Live with Admissions. My name is Gabby Lippy. I'm a graduate of the SJND class of 2008 and serving as Director of Admission. I began working at SJND the day after I graduated from college, and I'm now entering my 9th school year, and just really enjoy continuing to share my passion for the school community that I love and value so much. I hope you and your families have been safe and well during this time. Our world has changed, our schools have changed, and inevitably our admissions process must change. Which is why we are excited to introduce this new Live with Admissions series. It's a way for you as prospective families to connect with the SJND community on a regular basis. And you can look forward to special guests from our faculty and administration, as we have today with Principal Guevara, visits from current students and current parents, and most importantly, just providing you with the information you want to know and answering your questions. So we're excited about it, and I'd like to introduce you to the other members of our admission and enrollment team, Mrs. Eileen Graybeal and Mr. Sean Oburacion.
Good morning. I'm Eileen Graybeal, and I'm the Director of Enrollment Management. I have been with St. Joe's for, I think, going on my 7th year. I have 2 children who graduated from this school, 2016 with my son's graduation and 2019 my daughter. They both believe that their education at St. Joe's provided them with a very strong work ethic and a faith-based education that has really prepared them well for college and for life. So as Ms. Lippy mentioned, we have a lot of change going on in our world, and I look forward to meeting you all and working with you throughout the year. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sean Oburacion. Like Ms. Lippy said, I just started with the admissions team this year. I'm also an SJND alumni. I graduated class of 2015, and my family has a huge history with SJND. My dad and his siblings went here in the 80s, and both my younger sisters go to SJND as well. So I'm very, very blessed to be back in this environment working with all 3 of these lovely ladies again. I got the opportunity to work with them while I was there in school. And it's really exciting to be back and kind of changing the game during this time, especially because we can't do things as we normally do. So trying to find new creative ways to reach out to all of you and engage with families is going to be something that is really important for us to do this year. So I'm very excited to start this Live with Admissions series.
Thank you. So we all look forward to connecting with you today. And at the end of our session, we will be sharing with you some of our admissions goals, different ways for you to stay engaged with us this year, and answering some of your admissions questions. We ask that when you have a question, and there will be times where we prompt your questions, that you use the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and you are able to ask questions anonymously as well if you prefer to do so. I would now like to introduce our principal, Ms. Julie Guevara, who has been working so hard and leading so compassionately, strongly, vulnerably, and openly throughout this time. As a faculty and staff, we've been really grateful to have her leadership. So she's going to give a welcome, and please feel free to start asking some questions down in the Q&A, and she will address those following her update.
Thank you, Ms. Lippy, for that warm introduction. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning. Hopefully, you'll be joining us weekly to learn more about SJND. It is such a blessing and a privilege to be serving the SJND community in this special leadership position. I'd like to begin this morning how we, as a school community, begin every day in class, and that is with a community prayer. Typically, if we were on campus, the students and teachers in the classrooms would hear these prayers. But since we are distance learning at this time, our campus ministry executive board members, our student leaders, have recorded the prayers daily. So that way, again, we continue to start our day as one SJND community in prayer. So I ask that Ms. Libby or Mr. Obligacion share our prayer together. And this is, again, today's Monday morning prayer.
Good morning, SJND. Today is August 31st, 2020. Today we celebrate the feast day of St. Joseph of Arimathea. Please join me in prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Dear Lord, we ask you of your everlasting love and comfort to guide us this week. May this week bring bountiful relationships with one another. Allow us the confidence and strength to be entrusting one another in order to create a more diverse and welcoming community. Just like Jesus trusted his disciples, let us trust one another and make new friends. Holy Mary, Mother of God, and Saint Joseph, pray for us. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Hello everyone, today's daily challenge is to call or Google Chat someone that you don't normally talk to. You never know, you might just make a new friend. Have a great day everyone. Bye for now.
This is always a great way to start off our days, to kind of be uplifted by our own students as we kind of go through these challenging times. It's nice to start with familiar and joyful faces. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself and my journey that's led me to begin my 15th year here at SJND. You know, I'm a very proud native San Franciscan. I grew up in the Outer Sunset District. So if any of you have brought your children to either the San Francisco Zoo or Ocean Beach, that is the neighborhood I grew up in. I was raised throughout my educational career with the Catholic school background. Like many of you, my parents sacrificed so much to put myself as well as my two older brothers through Catholic school education. I think one of the main reasons is for the values and the faith-based education. You know, my family, my parents worked really hard. We're immigrants here, and if there was one thing that they always shared with me and my brothers was to never lose faith, to continuously have that relationship, so that through joyful and through difficult times, knowing that God is present will get us through anything. So with that came an education that just went from kindergarten all through grad school. So after kind of going through my educational career and several years in corporate, I actually then started my educational career in 2001 as a history teacher in a Catholic school in San Francisco, kind of going back to my personal roots. And then after about 5 years of teaching, I was introduced to the SJND community by a really good friend, basically like a family member who had worked here at the school, and asked me to just come visit the campus. And when I did come, keep in mind I was commuting from the Outer Sunset to Alameda. A couple things really resonated with me. And the first thing was kind of the warm and welcoming community, because as soon as I got onto campus, I had a few students approach me. Keep in mind, these are high school students, approach me and ask me if I needed some assistance, needed to be shown wherever I needed to go. And I was kind of taken aback knowing that high school students would go out of their way to be so helpful. I also noticed the ethnic diversity of the school. It was after school, and I noticed out on the quad, it really mirrored the Bay Area. And it was something I was not quite used to. And then when I talked to many of the students that day, I asked them kind of to highlight what they particularly liked about the school. And consistently, they talked about the faculty members, of how caring and supportive they were. And that was back in 2006. And fast forward 15 years later, that still connects and resonates with our student body. The diversity, the welcoming community, as well as the caring faculty. And so throughout the years here, I've been very privileged to serve in various leadership roles and been able to kind of shepherd our students and our families through their SJND experiences. And I find that that has been kind of what has led me to stay here for so long and be so committed, is the SJND community, the families, and especially the students. With this upcoming year, a lot, we have all kind of experienced a lot, and as Ms. Lippy mentioned earlier, a lot has changed. A lot has changed in the world, in the country, in our community, and so has our students. And that is the one thing we as a faculty and staff have really honed in on in these last 5 months, is supporting our students and our families through all this change. And so early on in the spring, as we transitioned to distance learning, we've been able to tap into our students and our families to see what is it that they need and the best way they can be supported. So through these last several months, we have made adjustments in preparation for this particular school year. And that has been mainly through our COVID-19 operational task force, which really focused on the health and safety, the academics, and enrollment of our community. And I'm sure as we go along today, this morning, you'll learn a little bit more about the details of that work. And as we are starting our 3rd week of school, our 3rd week, can you believe it? It has been a wonderful transition with classes starting out smoothly. In fact, this morning I popped in like I typically do if we are here on campus. I visited 2 classrooms, AP US History and a French class, and just was able to see the learning going on. So we transitioned into the classrooms pretty seamlessly. We've had co-curricular opportunities with school-wide events, such as an assembly, as well as student listening sessions. We've had last week our first liturgy of the year, and we even had back to school night last week. So as we start our 3rd week of school, a lot of activity is going on, just like a traditional school year. It is very different, but at the same time, our spirit and energy of the Pilot family still continues. So with that, I'd love to answer any questions anyone has about how we started the school year or what we anticipate for the upcoming school year.
So Julie, I'm going to filter some questions for you to pose out to you. And again, as everyone's mentioned, please feel free to answer or add any other questions to the Q&A. I'll be monitoring this as we go. So the first question is, what are you most proud of within the school community during this transition?
Wow, there's so many things, Eileen. Number one, I really am proud of the support, both from our faculty and staff to students, our parents, our alumni, the support for the school itself during these really challenging times. The flexibility and growth mindset that everyone has adopted, being able to adapt to things that are so uncertain, it's quite hard. However, our SJND community has really embraced it in a very compassionate and understanding way. I just find that throughout the last several months, whether it's through webinars or faculty and staff meetings or meetings with parents, people have really been understanding, they've listened, and really with a compassionate heart. Also, I'm very, very proud, particularly of our students, in demonstrating kind of their confidence, courage, and trust in the school community by having some really challenging conversations about the challenges that they've been experiencing within themselves, about the transition to distance learning, about the challenges of the racial injustices that's going on, that they're witnessing, that they are actually being a part of. And I'm very, very proud that they feel empowered and confident to use the platforms that they are given to communicate with us, to partner with the school, and to hopefully create meaningful change. It's something that really gives me hope in leading the school, is seeing how our young people are really embracing kind of the opportunities that lie ahead of them. So a lot of things I'm proud of right now, Eileen. Thank you for asking that.
Sure. Okay, question from a parent. Do you have plans in place to meet in person once Alameda County is off the monitoring list? And what do they look like?
Well, great question. We started this work back in May with the task force, specifically with our academic team. And during that time, we produced 2 scenarios that we thought would be realistic. One would be in distance learning, and the other would be in this hybrid model, when we can, in fact, be able to come back onto campus. And some of the things that we prepared for was having a consistent schedule. So the current schedule that we have right now has what we wanted to have as much of a typical normal schedule for our students that we would use either in distance learning or in our hybrid scenario. And so with that comes a regular start of the school day, which is 8:30 a.m., but 8 o'clock starts office hours. And every day the school day ends at 2:55. We do have flex periods every day in which students can connect with either their teachers or their counselors, or have co-curricular opportunities. Now this schedule would actually be the same if we were to go into the hybrid model. Now, when we can come onto campus, the #1 priority is safety. Safety for faculty and staff, safety for our students, as well as our families. And that aspect has been worked on by our health and safety team of the facilities since May. And with that comes PPE equipment, safety and health protocols of what every individual is required to do when they come onto campus, which is a self-assessment, wearing masks, being physically distant, as well as really transforming our campus into safe walkways with everything going one way, one directional, including vast majority of our classrooms. So when we are able and we decide to go into the hybrid model, we will be very, very prepared, and we will do some trainings prior to that. Over the summer, our faculty and staff did go through training in preparation. And so it's just when we do decide to come onto campus, educating our families on what our protocols are, which we have them already in place. So we are ready when we can. Again, keeping safety as our #1 priority.
Thank you, Julie. Another question from a parent. Do you have any update to the HSPT/practice HSPT? And with students applying without being able to complete service hours and summer programs, etc., how are you adapting the admissions process to be able to get a picture of the whole student?
Well, I'm going to generally speak on, we know that this year is a very, very unique and special year. We too will also be very flexible in terms of how we look at our applicant pool, but I will leave kind of the details of the HSPT, which as of right now, I know that we still will be hosting them, but I will leave the details to Ms. Slippy and yourself, maybe I don't know, Ms. Slippy, if you wanted to speak on that now.
Yes, absolutely. So we do still have our practice HSPT scheduled for September 12th. We are actually meeting with the testing company today at 2 p.m. to finalize. We want to make sure that the online version they have prepared will be fully functional for our students. So we will be communicating out later today to those that have already registered and updating our website. But we do plan to host practice HSPTs for students prior to testing on January 9th. So stay tuned.
I also would just add that in regards to getting to know the whole student and to spend the time with the student and the service hours and summer program, obviously we're in a world where this is affecting everyone. And so that review or that need for listing multiple things that you've done or service treatment that you've done is not something that we're gonna be necessarily as focused on. There are not service hours required in high school, so the service hour kind of adjustment might need to be discussed with your elementary school principals as well, but we will absolutely get to know the whole child. Okay, next is, have you had to adjust your counseling program due to the social emotional challenges of your students during the COVID-19 period?
Eileen, great question. As we were actually in the spring in distance learning, we knew that a focus and a priority of ours was supporting our students' social, emotional, and spiritual needs. And so a lot of that focus was around also our school schedule of how through distance learning can we continue to support them. So I mentioned before that our schedule has many opportunities throughout the day to connect with them. So whether it's with teachers during office hours or specifically their counselors during their flex periods, that was very intentional when creating our schedule. Also, our counselors can now check in on our students one-on-one, really without disrupting too much class time. The fact that it is virtual, sometimes our students have seen their counselors after school hours. In addition, we have put a lot of effort in supporting our parents because we believe that there is a partnership with the parents as well as teachers and administration to help the students kind of navigate during this time. So we've hosted parent evenings. Eileen has actually hosted them every week to just know what the pulse is of our families, just non-school related, how are families doing, how are our students doing. So we're hosting events. Actually, tomorrow evening, we do have an event available to anyone hosted by one of our alums who is a psychologist who will provide support for parents in supporting their children during this time. We also have our counseling department put together a fantastic resource for parents to use during this time for their students. And that is actually available on our website. If you go to the home page and look at some of the events, you'll notice that in our blog, we have that resource for parents. So to kind of answer your question, Eileen, we definitely know that our students' social emotional safety is a priority, and we are doing all that we can and more to support them. We also have what's called Counselors in the Classroom, which is our 4-year curriculum that helps students navigate through kind of relevant issues that are developmentally appropriate throughout each grade level. And last week we completed our very first one for the entire school. And that was called SJND as a Welcoming Community. And this week our seniors will be discussing college counseling advisory part 3, and our sophomores this week will be talking about how to navigate through relationships. So again, our counseling department is quite busy and it's very available for both our students as well as our families.
Thank you. So I did see that there was a chat posted about a virtual open house date that Ms. Lippy answered, but we will be having a virtual open house on October 25th. And we're orchestrating as we speak for that to be the most effective that we possibly can have. The other question that I would ask Julie that would be helpful, because many of these parents that were with us today will be potential families for the 2021-2022 school year. So how involved can parents be in these times of COVID while we're on a distance learning plan? So if we were to stay on one, which we hope that would be different by next year, but as we stay on one now, how involved can parents be in these times?
You know, involvement is something that we really value here at SJND, whether right now it's distance and virtual or when we're live and in person. That's something I think that's very special about SJND, of how the parents really do become part of the community just like their students. But right now, during these times, our parents, again, are involved through attending kind of the parent ambassador and listening sessions that we have weekly with you, Eileen. Just again, meeting other parents, having the opportunity to get space just as parents to talk through similar challenges. No, parents, you are not alone. Your children are experiencing something. Not only are they adolescents and have kind of the normal developmental challenges in your household, added layers of kind of the stress that, you know, we've never seen in our lifetime. So having a place where you can kind of have support and listen to one another and share strategies of coping is great. I mentioned before, we have some workshops and resources available. And then again, basic communication. We always want to know if there's something going on in your family that might impact your students' learning. You know, if they don't feel safe, if they are stressed, it's great for their teachers to know, their counselors to know, so that way we can support them as best as we can. The more we know, the more we can support and support them as partners. Because really the adults in their life are you as their parents and guardians, us as their teachers, their administrators, their coaches, their mentors. So we all should be on the same page in supporting them.
In addition, I would just add that the parent ambassador group that we have right now is very strong. And we, for those of you in Catholic elementary schools, you might know of a bridge program where you kind of bond with an incoming family to help them. And this year, due to the COVID situation, the parent ambassadors that are current families reached out to all the incoming freshman families, and we built that bridge so that they have a resource and somebody to get to know, and families were very appreciative of that. There was a Q&A. It looks like it might have gone, but I'll ask it anyways. Ms. Lippy, when does the admission season for this year start?
Yeah, so this is kind of the official launch of our admissions season. But in terms of the application, that goes live tomorrow, September 1st on our website. So if students want to get an early start, they can start applying tomorrow.
One last area that I would say before we move on that I think would be helpful, Ms. Guevara, is that how are you staying informed with the county and the state rulings so that you know where we are, where we should be as a school?
Great. Thank you, Eileen. Since we've been in distance learning since last spring, I attend a weekly meeting with the Alameda County Public Health, as well as the Alameda County School of Education. And we meet weekly to learn of all the updates, particularly from the Alameda County Public Health, of kind of the latest things we're allowed to do, any updates, and just know Alameda County, a lot of our families live throughout multiple different counties. So some are in Contra Costa, some are in Alameda, some maybe in San Francisco or even Solano. Just know though, because our school is located in Alameda County, that we follow the guidelines of the Alameda County Public Health Department. In addition to that, SJND is also a diocesan school. Meaning we are under the leadership of the Diocese of Oakland. And so every week, I'm also on a separate call with the Diocese of Oakland, along with the other high school that's a diocesan school. And so that way, we are all in line and in communication with the Alameda County Public Health, along with our diocesan leadership, to ensure that as we make some pivots throughout the year, whether it's going to be distance learning or the hybrid, health and safety protocols, that we are all in alignment and following the best practices, particularly when it comes to the health aspect. So weekly calls since spring.
Thank you. So are there any other questions or chat comments or questions that anyone wants to pose before we move on to the next section of the presentation? There is one. Is there an advantage to starting the admissions process now versus later in the year or after the Hspt testing?
I can answer that. So our application deadline, we have two. We have an early bird application deadline of December 4th, and then our final application deadline is January 7th. So in order to take the high school placement test at any of the Catholic high schools, you have to have submitted an application. So families apply by December or January and then move into the high school placement test and the remaining parts of the application process. With the early bird application deadline, there is a reduced application fee. So that can be motivating for families to get it done a little bit earlier. But we really focus in the fall on providing opportunities for students and parents to learn about the school. So we will talk about this later in the presentation, but we will have virtual visit opportunities for students, a lot of live Zoom events to make sure families have the information they need before deciding to apply in December. So the advantages to starting early are just for students to get it done. There are some short answer responses and a short essay that the students will write. So if they want to get an early start on that as well.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Principal Guevara. And Ms. Lippi, do you want to go on to the next section? If there's any questions that do come up, feel free to continue to post them in the chat, in the Q&A, and we can continue to respond. And if they are something specific and you want a personal appointment with one of us, you can also arrange that.
Great. So we'd like these sessions to be as interactive as possible. So we're going to launch a quick poll. If you would mind responding, either telling us kind of what school type of school you are representing or what type of school your student currently attends. Awesome. We have a lot of Catholic school families, some independent school families, one public school family. Great. Awesome. Well, again, thank you all for being here, and we'll make sure to address questions that apply to all of you. So as an admissions team, we set goals each season. And this year in particular, we are operating very much in the spirit of meeting families where they are. So while you are not able to come to the SJND campus, our goal is to bring the SJND campus and community to you in your homes, in the ways that work for you and your students, unique schedules and unique interests. So as a department, our values are engage. We don't want students or parents to feel like they are missing out on anything this season. So we will provide engaging content, making sure we're addressing those frequently asked questions, connect. Creating personal connections with families is something that we value and enjoy a lot, but also connecting you to the faces of our school. So today with Principal Guevara, connecting you with teachers, with current students and current parents, because we know that perspective is so important as well. So making sure you feel connected to SJND and to our process. Communicate. It is very important for us to be accessible and to provide strong customer service throughout the year. So as Eileen mentioned, you may schedule a one-on-one meeting with any of us at any time if you want something a little bit more personal. And then we'll be releasing our full event calendar with lots of opportunities to engage. And transparent. That is something that is a goal of our school, but also our admissions process. We want to be very transparent about who we are, what we do, and why we do it. And so we want to express to families that you can rely on us to engage, connect, communicate, and to be transparent throughout the admissions season.
Like Ms. Lippy said, we also have a lot of ways that we will be reaching out to parents to offer opportunities to engage, especially as we start settling into the new school year. So this will include both admissions events, but also co-curricular events, all kind of used as a way for students and families to kind of get to know who we are at SJND and what we offer. Virtual visits, as we have mentioned before, are going to be a weekly offering, so it'll be a chance for students to really get an opportunity to see what it's like at SJND. We have catered a specific experience for these students. That way they can meet some of our current students, get some of their questions answered, but also so they can see, what a possible online class is like at SJND, and kind of just get the whole experience in a quick little visit. We are also offering info sessions. These are themed, so planning on having a STEM info session, a visual and performing arts session, humanities, and student life as well, just to make sure that we're engaging the families and making sure that you can get your questions answered regarding those specific areas. Sample classes, so allowing teachers to kind of distill a lesson down to maybe half an hour, so everyone can kind of get an opportunity to see what it's like to be in a virtual environment. We are also offering parent and alumni panels, so engaging our current parents, our alumni, and maybe a combination of both. That way you can get information and insight about what life is like outside of the student experience at SJND. And finally, like both Ms. Lippy and Ms. Graybiel have mentioned, we do offer one-on-one meetings with any of the three of us. Those are able to be set up on a calendar that we all have specifically for ourselves. So these are all ways that we're trying to make sure that we stay engaged and connected with the community, especially during times like these. Someone asked a question earlier about an open house. This is touching on that as well. We do have a save the date for Sunday, October 25th. Of course, this event is going to have to be virtual because we cannot open up school to hundreds of visitors as we normally would during open house, which we're trying to make sure that we still offer the same amount of engagement, the same amount of information, the same welcoming feeling that you would get if you came to SJND's campus. So we are planning on engaging families in as many ways as possible. Open house is an example of an event that we'll have both a schedule of live events for the day, but also there will be pre-recorded videos and other content that you get an opportunity to explore at your own pace, at your own time. So combining both of those, we're really trying to focus on accessibility while still creating a very welcoming experience in an open house environment.
So I'm going to go through our application timeline. As I'm doing so, please feel free, just a reminder again, to ask any admissions questions down in the Q&A. And also, we want to ensure that these Live with Admissions sessions are addressing your questions, concerns, and interests. So if you have any suggestions for topics that you would like to see us present, you can feel free to comment those in the chat as well. So our application timeline, as I mentioned just a bit ago, the first step kind of beyond the admissions outreach opportunities you may participate in is to submit an online application on the SJND website. Our early bird deadline is December 4th and our final application deadline January 7th. Once you create an application, you will have access to our parent portal and an online checklist of all of the upcoming steps of the admissions process. So You will be able to register, meet deadlines, and see when items have been completed in your application process. So it'll be a helpful live resource that you can check in and out of throughout the season. The second step will be to take the high school placement test, which will almost 100% sure will be proctored online on January 9th. All of the admissions directors from the Diocese of Oakland have been meeting regularly with the diocese to come up with the best option for families. So we have more information to come on the Hspt, but we are sticking with the January 9th date. Family interviews. So this will pop up in a family's parent portal starting in January. This is one of my favorite parts of our application process. We connect a student and parent or guardians with one of our faculty members for a family interview, a casual conversation. The students will meet with the faculty member or administrator for about 10 minutes, and the parent or guardian may join in for the second half of the interview. We really value getting a face-to-face, allowing families to ask questions of one of our teachers, and just it's a great way for us to get to know our student applicants better. Submitting transcripts and recommendations. Through the parent portal, you will be able to download a transcript request form and submit that to your student's current school, as well as online recommendations. So students may request via email through the parent portal recommendations from their principal and counselor, their math, and their English teachers. For students attending a public or charter school, recommendations are strongly encouraged but not required, as those teachers are not required to write them, but most often are willing to. And finally, on March 19th, you will receive the admissions notification and be able to explore the notification packet and then eventually register. Great, so now open to questions that Eileen and I will facilitate if anyone has remaining questions for us.
We also would welcome any feedback. This is our first live with admissions, and it's one we're going to be doing, as mentioned earlier in the presentation, every Monday, except for when there's a holiday like next Monday. But we would love the feedback on how you felt about this this presentation and how you felt about this opportunity, and specific areas that you want to learn more about. We would love to have that topic list so we can continue to support that. There's a few questions. Let me get here. Oops, hold on. Do you have any dates set for individual schools to have virtual visits with interested students?
Yes, so we are currently working with the elementary school teachers to set up those visits. Thus far, we have a St. Joseph Elementary School visit scheduled, as well as a St. Philip Neri School visit scheduled. So we are partnering with 8th grade teachers to offer an 80-minute virtual visit experience that includes interaction with current students, a sample class with one of our teachers, and kind of some fun, engaging ways to get to know more about our school. So we are scheduling those with schools currently.
Could you repeat the part about the letters of recommendation? Math and English teachers, anyone else?
Yes, so when you apply in the parent portal, you will see the option to send an online recommendation request. There are 3 that are required or strongly encouraged for those attending a public or charter school. And that is an English teacher, math teacher, and a principal or head of school or counselor. So those are kind of 3 standard forms. If anyone that a student knows wants to submit kind of a supplemental recommendation, they can do so by by emailing it to us in the admissions office. But yes, the online recommendation requests go to the current English teacher, math teacher, and principal or counselor.
If there's any challenge with that, if you are in a school, whether sometimes in a public school or a charter school, if there's a challenge with being able to obtain recommendations, if you go through the main program or main office, you can have an individual recommendation letter that can come from a tutor or it can come from a specific teacher that they've worked closely with. Preference is math and English, but if it's not a possibility, please either reach out to us or you can obtain them from one of the other categories I mentioned. Okay. What is the best way to help students prepare for the HSPT?
It's a great question, and it will look a little bit different this year. So when we release information about the January testing, we will inform families of the format and focus of that testing. But we know that students sometimes, have a little bit of anxiety around test taking. I certainly did as a student. So kind of the more practice and confidence you can build with your students at home just helps them kind of go in prepared. We do have, there are several kind of preparation workbooks that you can purchase, and we'll be happy to recommend some of those that include some practice tests. But just kind of helping students get a sense of the timing can be really helpful. Oftentimes we suggest maybe incorporating into homework nightly or weekly some sample questions just to kind of get the mind focused in that area. But we know many middle school students have never taken a standardized test in one sitting, perhaps that lasts about 2.5 to 3 hours. So oftentimes the 8th grade classes will do some preparation as well. And we will definitely be providing resources to help students prepare, whether that be a prep course, which we typically do, led by our teachers, or some suggestions of materials that families can use.
Thank you. Question from a parent. I know that being able to visit the school and sit in the classrooms can be a big part of the decision process for students to get the feel of the school. How will you be able to recreate the experience virtually?
That's a great question. And kind of addressing it in 2 ways. So with our virtual visit, we will invite students into our virtual SJND kind of classroom experience. So they will have live interaction with our current students as members of our ambassador leadership team. So leading kind of personalized student discussions in breakout rooms, sharing their experience. We will bring in a teacher who has designed a kind of class, about a 20 to 30-minute class period for the students to participate in. So kind of a sample of what they may experience. And then each of our teachers' classes every day, every period are recorded. And so we will be posting kind of snippets of our live class periods as well for families to kind of explore at their own pace. So we know it won't be the same as being on campus, but our goal is to kind of combine the teacher connection, allowing students to get a sense of one of our teachers' personalities, teaching styles, and then the social aspect of connecting with our current students. So those are kind of a couple of ways where we hope to recreate that experience for students.
So much of St. Joe's is based on obviously wonderful academics, but it's community. And throughout this COVID time, we have all been, as Julie mentioned, I've been talking with parents every week on Thursday evenings just to do a check-in and see how everyone's doing and see how their students are doing. That I feel really comfortable and confident that we know the struggles of connecting from a Zoom perspective and connecting not obviously live in our tour, But I think with our faculty and those of us in admissions that know that relationship is so much more than just the tour, that we'll make sure that those connections continue to be focused on as well. And for this student. So we always love feedback. So as Gabby mentioned earlier, we're very transparent. So we want to make sure that if there's ideas that you want to make sure are covered or areas that you want to make sure are covered, please let us know. How can a student visit a certain, like a specific area of interest in the school in these virtual times?
A couple of different ways. So we will have our themed information nights. So nights dedicated to our science, technology, engineering, and math program, our humanities program, English, social studies, and theology, our visual and performing arts program, band, musical theater, and art, and choir, and then student life. So athletics, clubs, campus ministry, and so forth. If students have particular interests and you want to schedule a one-on-one, you're welcome to set up something on our calendar, and when you do so, it will ask what, if there's anything in particular you'd like to cover, and we can always engage a student who is involved in a program your child may be interested in. So for instance, if your student is really interested in engineering, we can include a student in our engineering pathway to talk with you and your student kind of in a personalized way. As we kind of build up to our open house, we will also have kind of a robust set of website content and videos specific to each department and area of our school. So if there is a particular, whether it be athletics or subject area, there will be a dedicated page on our website with lots of video content, written content as well. And there will be opportunities to connect live during our open house week and open house day as well.
Okay. Any other questions anyone has, please pop them into the Q&A. I'm going to go over just a couple of points. We will not be having one next Monday as it is Labor Day, so enjoy the day. We will be starting them back up on the 14th of September. Looks like I got a question coming in. Can you speak a bit more about your track? Did you mention an engineering track?
Yes, so we do have a couple of signature programs. One is our biomedical sciences program, and the second is our engineering pathway. And students who participate in the engineering pathway receive special acknowledgement at graduation and have a required set of classes and courses that they participate in for their 4 years. So we're actually entering our second year of that pathway. For freshmen, for incoming students, they of course take their math and science requirements and also participate in our STEM society, or STEAM society, science, technology, engineering, art, and math. The STEAM society meets on a weekly basis. And in terms of engineering pathway, they have project-based work and individual hands-on work that they present each year. They work closely with our IDEA lab. So we have a lab full of different equipment that students can use in their projects. And then as students enter their upper division, they can take our Introduction to Computer Science course. We also have an AP Computer Science course. So if students already have some familiarity with that kind of coding language, they can test out of the entry-level course. And kind of the capstone course is called Research, Design, and Build. It's a hands-on class that allows students to explore kind of different areas of engineering and come up with a project based on the area they have most interest in, but really focused on the hands-on learning in that program. And students are a part of the STEAM Club for all 4 years. So they're doing projects, presenting regularly. So yeah, and that program actually came about just out of student interest. We had a lot of students asking for an offering like that. And so the school came up with a curriculum and a program to address those needs. So Mr. Calais is our kind of leader of the coursework, and Andy McKee, our director of technology and integration, leads up our STEAM society. So yeah, it's a very engaging program, and we'll definitely be presenting on that this fall.
Thank you, Gabby. One of the areas I just want to, as we close here, to mention is we as a school have received a lot of really wonderful feedback from families who go to our school, and actually from families who do not go to our school, in how we were able to manage the COVID transition in the spring, throughout the summer, and into the fall. As Ms. Guevara mentioned earlier, and her commitment, as Gabby mentioned earlier, Ms. Lippy mentioned earlier, to the school, and doing it from a safety perspective, from an emotional perspective, from a spiritual perspective, and a community. We really have received awesome feedback that lets us believe we're doing things in a way that support our families. That is not different in the St. Joe's universe. That's how we've always been. But in these trying times, being able to just connect and to be able to understand what a parent is looking for, the perspective we came from throughout this process is, what is a family looking for? What is going to make them feel more comfortable? What's going to be the right way for their education to stay in place? And then how do we emotionally support them? The same effort will be there for admissions. That has always been there, which is, at the end of the day, you as a family will do what's right for your child, but we want to be on that journey with you to be able to support the knowledge base that you need to go into to figure out what is right. We are blessed in the Bay Area with wonderful schools. Many of them are great schools, and what you need to do on this next journey is figure out the right fit for your child. We would love that to be St. Joe's. We believe that it's a great school and we live it every day, but we also want to make sure that we're supportive to you and what you need as a family going on this journey. So know that Ms. Lippy, Mr. Obligacion, myself, Ms. Guevara, we are all supportive and encouraging, and we're also reachable in any case of time that you may want to reach out to us. If you go to our emails, if you email us, there is a link on there where you can set up a one-on-one with any of us, and we can answer your questions. Some of these sessions moving forward will be open discussion sessions so that we're able to filter your questions, and we'll have students or parents on there, and they may not be as structured, but they will be discussion based. So again, meeting people where they are, meeting families where you are, is what our goal is this year, and we want to make sure that we continue that focus. So we really appreciate you joining us today. This has been a really great opportunity for us, and with technology, look at all the wonderful things we can do. And we would love to see you on the 14th of September at our next Live with Admissions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye,
Thank you
everybody.
all.